Today is Wednesday, March 12th. We'll tell you about a new deal American officials reached with Ukraine and how Russia might respond. Also, what to know about a cross-border back and forth as new tariffs went into effect overnight. Plus, what crash investigators learned about the airspace over Washington, D.C., how Southwest Airlines' famous and decades-old bag policy is changing, and which new Broadway show with A-list celebrities is breaking all-time records. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. It seems the U.S. and Ukraine are back on good terms. Ukrainian officials accepted a 30-day ceasefire as proposed by the United States. The exact terms are not out there yet, but they were negotiated for nearly 8 hours. An American diplomat said they got into the details about how the war is actually going to end for good. Now, for the violence to actually stop, even for a month, Russia will have to agree to that same ceasefire. So President Trump says he plans to talk to Russian President Vladimir Putin about it in the coming days. Already, the Trump administration agreed to resume military aid and intelligence sharing for Ukraine. It's considered crucial, especially since there have been ongoing deadly attacks even this week, and Ukrainian commanders say the cutoff had impaired soldiers. Now, Ukraine says all security assistance has already resumed. Both the U.S. and Ukraine also agreed to wrap up a rare minerals deal as soon as possible. President Trump's latest round of tariffs went into effect overnight. And this time, the U.S. imposed 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports. But there was some uncertainty in the hours leading up to them, and things could still change. Flashback to yesterday morning, and Trump wrote on social media that Canadian steel and aluminum would face a 50% tariff, double that of everywhere else. He explained, saying it was in response to an extra charge Ontario placed on electricity for certain American states, even though that was a response to tariffs Trump imposed on Canada last week. Then yesterday afternoon, Ontario's leaders suspended the electricity surcharge, and Trump then lowered the extra tariff on Canadian metals to 25% again. The White House says it's a sign Trump's threats are working, but the back and forth doesn't seem to be done yet. The Canadian government is also promising to retaliate against the 25% metal tariffs, and Trump is threatening to respond to tariffs against American dairy and agricultural products. Plus, he's still talking about tariffs coming next month unless Canada increases border enforcement. Also this week, the president has been repeating another threat that's been met with anger from Canadian leaders. He said Canada would no longer have a tariff problem if it became part of the United States. Originally, Canadian officials thought the 51st state comments were a joke, but Trump seems to be getting more serious about it. So far, President Trump has not been in communication with Canada's newly confirmed prime minister, but he's expected to be sworn into office soon, and then he says he'll talk more about policy. For weeks, America has been shifting away from U.S. foreign aid and development at a historic pace. And now Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the government is done gutting USAID programs. Already 83% of them are now gone, and the rest are moving under the State Department's control. Thousands of USAID employees have been fired, and the staff that's left is being told to clear out safes holding classified documents and personnel files. A senior official told workers to shred papers or put them into bags for burning. A union representing diplomats, though, said it's worried about that move, especially since sensitive documents could be relevant to ongoing court cases. But the White House says all the papers still exist on classified computer systems anyway. And workers need to make room, since the old USAID headquarters will go to create more workspace for Customs and Border Protection. Speaking of the federal government overhaul, just last night, the Education Department announced it was cutting nearly half of its workforce, and all divisions within the agency will apparently be impacted. The new education secretary says it's all about efficiency, making sure resources are spent where they matter most, on students, parents, and teachers. Though the Trump administration's long-term plan is still to get rid of the department entirely and have individual states take on the work. Today, all federal education department offices will be closed. The department cited security concerns when telling employees to work from home without getting into more specifics. Even more layoffs could be coming soon, too, since agency leaders are supposed to submit their reorganization plans to the White House later this week. Investigators are sounding the alarm over serious safety risks in the skies above the nation's capital. The National Transportation Safety Board released its findings into the mid-air collision between an American Airlines plane and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. It included new data showing the danger near Ronald Reagan National Airport. For example, in just over 3 years, there were 85 times in which a few feet in the wrong direction could have meant the same kind of deadly crash like what happened in January. Now, the NTSB recommends things like adding more distance between planes and helicopters. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says he'll adopt all the NTSB's recommendations, but there will be some modifications for allowing things like presidential flights and life-saving missions. The FAA will also use artificial intelligence to analyze data from every airport to make sure there aren't similar dangers elsewhere. And Duffy says in the next couple of weeks, he's going to give Congress a plan to completely overhaul the system with new technology. California is getting hit with a powerful storm today that's expected to make its way across the whole country by the end of this week. First, it's rain and snow around central and southern California for the next few days. With that comes an extra risk of flooding and landslides, including debris flows in areas still recovering from wildfires. By tomorrow, forecasts show rain and snow spreading into more of the west, reaching much of the Rockies by the end of the day. And then Friday, the system is expected to strengthen and become pretty intense in the plains. An 800-mile area from Louisiana through Iowa is expected to get hit. Damaging wind gusts, hail, tornadoes, and wildfires are all possible. Then by the weekend, it's the East's turn, with severe thunderstorms and blizzard conditions in the mix from Pennsylvania to Florida. So meteorologists say almost everyone should keep their eyes on the forecast, at least for the next few days. We have more news for you still coming up, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor. Perhaps your spring cleaning routine this year should actually start in your sock drawer. Yeah, time to ditch any mismatched or tired pairs and refresh your collection with some fresh Bombas. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. My Bombas gripper socks, for example, are the only ones I'll wear to my Pilates class. They're comfy with that extra traction I need and stylish too. And I love my lightweight athletic socks. They are great for long walks or running around the park with my family on the weekends. Or if you're a runner, they've got the perfect running sock for you that has blister fighting and sweat wicking comfort. And while you're at it, check out Bombas' fresh, buttery soft t-shirts and waterproof slides. And something else that I adore about Bombas is that for every comfy pair of socks you get, they donate another comfy pair to someone facing homelessness. I just love knowing that buying high-quality socks for myself actually also does good for someone else. Plus, now Bombas is going international. Enjoy worldwide shipping to over 200 countries. Head over to bombas.com/newsworthy and use the code newsworthy for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/newsworthy with the code newsworthy for 20% off your first purchase. Bombas.com/newsworthy with the code newsworthy. Now, back to the news. Today, a SpaceX rocket is set to launch with a mission to bring a pair of astronauts back to Earth. Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore have been in space since June of last year when they took the first crewed test flight of Boeing's Starliner. When they first launched, the plan was to stay on the International Space Station for about a week. But the Starliner ended up having several issues and returned to Earth without the crew. Williams and Wilmore stayed for more than 9 months and performed scientific research while they waited for another ride home. And finally, today, the plan is for a new crew to go up to the ISS, the old crew to return, along with Williams and Wilmore, after a brief handoff period. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is laying out one of his top priorities as health secretary. He wants artificial dyes out of American food before President Trump's term is up. At least that's what he told food industry leaders, including the CEOs of Kellogg's, PepsiCo, Tyson, Kraft Heinz, Smucker's, and General Mills this week. Specifically, Kennedy told them to ban fake color additives, or the government will do it for them. Many companies already have natural swaps ready, since they have to use them to sell their products in other countries like Canada. But in the past, companies have said Americans don't have the same desire for less appealing or less vivid colors, so the artificial colorings are still used here. Industry leaders say a ban would raise food prices, which would be unnecessary since the FDA has not found enough concrete evidence to suggest any food on the market is actually toxic to humans the way RFK Jr. says it is. But some food safety advocates also say it takes far too long for the FDA to reassess chemicals in food, and some ingredients they don't assess at all. A longstanding policy lets companies decide a new ingredient in the food supply is safe without a regulatory review. Supporters of that current system say it's a way to balance efficiency and safety. But critics say self-regulation leaves too many loopholes. And this week, RFK Jr. told the FDA to revise the policy. At this point, Kennedy says it's all about transparency and making America healthy again. Industry leaders say they're looking forward to working with him as they also strive to make food healthier. Southwest Airlines is changing up its trademark 2 bags fly free policy. The carrier announced it's going to charge passengers to check any bags unless they're a preferred member of the loyalty program, an airline credit card holder, or flying on the most expensive fare. It's a big turnaround, seeing as just 6 months ago, the airline CEO said charging for bags was not a change he was willing to make, since it was one of the top reasons customers choose Southwest. But now the new policy is set to take effect at the end of May. And it's not the only change. Changes are also coming to their frequent flyer points system. And last year, the company announced it'll end its longstanding open seating model. Southwest also announced a new basic economy fare where you won't get free changes. And all of this does bring Southwest in line with its competitors. One luxury people are still spending on, apparently, Broadway shows. The new Othello production, starring Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal, set a new record for a week of performances. It brought in more than $2.8 million for 8 shows. With that, it became the top-grossing play in Broadway history. Othello has been playing to 100% capacity, and at this point, a ticket will run you on average about $340, considerably more than any other show on Broadway right now. Othello runs through June 8th. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, this episode is brought to you by Ancient Nutrition. For thousands of years, explorers searched for the mythical fountain to restore youth and cure anything. And it was never found, despite what some people on social media may try to tell you. But hey, we do have collagen at least. It's surely not a miracle, but it is proven to help you look and feel more healthy. Ancient Nutrition's mission is to create high-quality supplements that combine the best of ancient wisdom and modern science. Ancient Nutrition's multi-collagen advanced lean supplement contains 10 types of collagen from 10 real food-based sources. It's powered by clinically studied ingredients that promote healthy weight management and building lean muscle. Collagen can also reduce joint discomfort and improve the look and growth of your skin, hair, and nails. So I love knowing that I'm doing something good for my body every day by adding just a scoop of this in my morning smoothie or coffee, and it helps me feel my best. Right now, Ancient Nutrition is even offering 25% off your first order when you go to ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. That's ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy for 25% off your first order. ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. So layoffs have now reached their highest level since July of 2020, when much of the economy was shut down because of COVID-19. This time, they're driven by massive federal government job cuts. A job placement firm called Challenger Gray & Christmas put out the numbers last week, showing layoffs surged 245% last month. More than 172,000 jobs were cut, the highest February number in 16 years. And more than a third of those cuts came from the Trump administration's push to shrink the federal workforce. But it's not just the federal government that's cutting back. Retailers like Macy's and Forever 21 cut almost 39,000 jobs in February, while tech companies let go of over 14,000 workers. That said, there are still some American companies hiring. The latest jobs report shows employers added 151,000 jobs last month, up from the month before. Many economists agree this is looking like a fundamentally healthy labor market. Well, thank you so much for listening today and for sharing the show. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.